Welcome to today's Big Idea Show with Greg Stobbs. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me in.
So I'm sure lots of people know of you, but for those who don't, Greg is an artist and illustrator. Is that the right way to describe you?
Many ways to describe me, but those are some of them for sure.
Okay, and today's conversation is going to be around making your mark, both in an artistic sense and in a wider sense of what it means to be human and make our mark, right?
Definitely.
Okay, we're going to be talking about that a bit more after these titles. Greg, welcome to the hot seat.
Thanks for having me.
You actually commented, didn't you, on Brit's video that we did a little while back, and I thought, got to get you on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Bridget is amazing, and she obviously commented about me as well, which is always nice. So,
Exactly. So I thought, what better way to flow from one to the other? And I've seen your work online for probably years, actually, when I think about it, and seeing all the stuff all over the place. So I thought, yes, actually. So it's a perfect time for comment. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you for joining me today. You're here for the first person as our new theme of audiences and engagement. Because I guess as an artist, that's a key thing, isn't it, for you, is if you create work, especially kind of street art, anything like that, that if no one's listening or watching, you're kind of talking into a void, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of my work is street-based, so it is about being seen or being noticed in some way or another. You know, graffiti, a lot of that comes from just being able to make a mark for anyone to see, whether it's a mark that actually means anything specific or not. You're just putting something out there in order for it to be received, essentially, in the same way as a conversation, or trying to say anything to anybody. You make a mark on a wall, and that instantly affects anybody that walks past it and actually takes it into their line of sight.
Yeah, has an impact on, I guess, is that the thing with street art, has an impact on people even who might not otherwise have come into contact with your work because you're making it public. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to be careful to not do it just as a kind of billboard. You know, I make it because I want to make it, and it just happens to be in the public realm. But that is for the other person in the conversation, so that's for the viewer, but it's more for myself.
Yeah.
And that it allows me greater kind of freedom and kind of power in what I do, rather than being afraid to do it and hiding. You know, hiding in your room or hiding in your studio and doing a lot of drawings is great up to a point, and it gets you technically able to do more. Yeah. But when you put things in front of a mass audience that are seeing it all of the time, you have to try to raise your game all the time and try to give something out that people are going to somehow appreciate. Yeah. Or dislike, you know, either way, one or the other. Yeah. And there's just nowhere in between, for sure.
Yeah. There's an audience, they've got to engage in some way, even if it's love or hate or indifference. But
yeah, definitely, well, hopefully not indifference. That's the
but it's still a chosen response, isn't it?
I suppose so. Yeah, no, you can walk past something and it means nothing to you. Absolutely,
you can't not see something sometimes, can you? So it's you're choosing to not see it.
For sure, and if you are doing it for yourself, then indifference shouldn't really matter, I suppose.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, I'm going to go on to quick fire questions because I know that we're just going to get carried away otherwise. So let's get them done, and then we'll get started on our main topic. So, you are the first in our new line of questions, so hopefully they won't be too tricky. Right, best audience you've ever delivered to or presented to?
I think the general public outside of the kind of the gallery realm, probably. So people who don't necessarily always experience art.
Okay, nice. What's your favourite thing about what you do?
Being able to kind of wake up every morning and know that I'm going to do something different. There is nothing static about it. It's fairly continually different. Yeah. Like wake up as a different person almost daily.
Okay.
if I wake up as the same person 2 days in a row, then it gets tired.
Yeah. And I have a feeling our conversation will go that way later on.
Sure.
Okay. Best feedback or compliment you've ever received?
I guess feedback-wise, there.
Or response.
Can we go past this one? Sorry.
Yes, we can skip this one. If you think you'll think of something later on,
maybe.
Like,
it might come up. For sure.
That.
Yeah.
Who is your ideal audience?
Again, people who wouldn't necessarily always see street art or see illustration or see art in general. Quite often kids, like young people, because they're open to the possibilities of anything that you make. They're not kind of they've not been put into a state where they're conditioned into liking one thing and disliking another.
You get a true response.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay, great. How do you make work grab their attention?
I mean, I do things large scale a lot of the time, and obviously that naturally does it. People see things big, and they're, you know, that's very basic, but it's true. But I think the subject matter and the narrative is a massive part of that. Giving some kind of story in your work so that people can feel attached to it and wonder what is more to it, whether there's anywhere else it goes.
Make them think. And
but not just think, but be involved in a piece of artwork. Feel like they're in it rather than standing in front of it. Yeah.
Okay, nice. How do you engage with new audiences, do you think, and get people to listen? It's a hard question.
Yeah, but I think in numerous ways, really, quite often not just visual. I think you have to give people as many opportunities to be involved as possible. And visual only gives you one opportunity. So I'm talking about using sound, using smell, using any kind of means to get into someone's brain. Any sensory means, and not just visual. Something where, again, people can feel like they're fully involved in it.
That's what I got, I think, and that was what I had where you'd come up in conversation with Bridget, was around the Cheriton Light Festival. And when you said about sound, that I instantly went there and thought of your work. That was, I can't remember what it was called, but I just remember going in and it was like the light was a really, I know that's visual, but it kind of feels like it gets you at a different level, doesn't it? No, it's definitely getting you beyond and just the sound visual. And the kind of animal noises, wasn't it? Or kind of forestry.
Yeah, I mean, so it was called The Matter, that piece. And I was working with a company called Butch Auntie on projection mapping. And projecting mapping onto three-dimensional shape. So really they're making a character that actually kind of came to life and people could hug it and get fully in it, like really involved in it, really and it would speak to you and it would tell you things. I mean, it would fart every now and again and things like that as well. So, but also, I think that's really important when you're dealing with everybody. Allowing people to find things stupid or funny or ridiculous, and just closing that gap, not making it elitist at all, allowing people into it to the point where you're just making them feel as many different things as they possibly can while being actually in your artwork. Without them in it, the artwork is irrelevant. You know, you can stand there and look at that guy, the matter, and that's doing something. But until you actually get fully immersed in it, then you're not really, it's not doing anything.
It's not experiencing it, like.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, good. That's good stuff. Is it still? Can people still see or engage with it anyway? No. I kind of want to. For anyone who missed it, I want to be able to put a link to it.
Yeah, no, it's out of existence now. I mean, I imagine Strange Cargo, probably there might be a link to it on their website. I'm not sure for the last Cheriton Light Festival. But yeah, no, it's very much an experience that you had at that time, and again, moving on to something else all the time. So that one's past. Yeah,
nice. I think it was right at the end, because we'd seen the main stuff. It was kind of slightly off the main
it was
track,
in the factory.
wasn't it? And we kind of came at it by chance. Went, oh, it was right at the end. Oh, what's this? And I was like, okay, yes, this is what I think was one of my favourite bits.
Oh, cool. Thanks very much.
Okay, right. That is our quickfire questions
Great.
done. Let's go on to our main topic then now, shall we? Of making your mark. And we were chatting beforehand, weren't we? And you said this word, and then as we started talking, I was like, that's a great title and a great topic because it's so relevant to street art. Mm-hmm. But then as you were describing it, around how we all have this innate human need to make our mark. Like I want to make my mark in kind of using video and interviews, and people wanting to make their mark in, they always have something to say or they're always producing work. And I thought that was really fascinating to hear your parallels with a very tangible kind of street art point of view, mm-hmm. but also maybe some of the history of street art and things like that. So can you tell for the listeners, because we've had a little bit of chat about it, haven't we, behind the scenes, on where this idea came from and kind of some of the other work you're doing that's led us to kind of go, yes, this is a great topic for discussion.
Okay, so I mean, graffiti in its essence is about mark making, and it's about putting something out there that people are going to either appeal to them or they're going to hate it. You know, it's done illegally in the first place, and therefore you're already kind of irritating some people in that sense. But mm-hmm. it's also from the artist's point of view, not just ego. It's not just about being seen. Mm-hmm. It's about needing to get something out of you, get something onto a surface that is going to be seen or not seen. You know, and that's the same in virtually anything. I think in my own work outside of street art, mm-hmm. graffiti, illustration is an intrinsic need, like an addiction or like an illness, essentially, that makes you have to do it. Yeah,
an inbuilt self-expression that
absolutely
we have to contribute to the world in some way, right?
Absolutely, but I'm not even sure if it's about contributing to the world. It's not necessarily, again, for anybody else. If I didn't do it, if no one was looking, mm-hmm. that would make it, not as interesting, but I'd still have to do it. Yeah. You know, I think it has to come out. Mm-hmm. Otherwise something, I don't know what happens because it's never not come out before. Yeah. But I don't want to know. Yeah. It's not something I ever want to experience. So marks, I think, are something that everybody has a need to make. Whether it's doodling while you're on the telephone, mm-hmm. back in the old days when you had a handheld telephone, you know.
And you couldn't go anywhere, exactly, so you couldn't wander around like we all do nowadays,
Or sitting on the toilet and drawing on the back of the toilet door, or, messages that aren't necessarily for a specific person, mm-hmm. but are for the whole of the universe, the cosmos, everything, essentially. You're literally just putting it out there. To say what? You're not actually saying anything a lot of the time. You're just giving something out. Or, and as naturally as breathing, or in the sort of animal kingdom we were talking about earlier on, the need for some kind of primal instinct, for an animal-like need to mark something. Yeah. Just so that you're communicating something from yourself to the wider world. Yeah.
Do you think that's an instinct thing? Kind of if we're looking at it from an animal kind of primal thing, is it an evolutionary thing that to kind of reproduce how we're inbuilt, that by making a mark, it's there so that society or our race continues in the same way as animals would? I haven't expressed that very well.
Yeah, no, I think I know what you mean, though.
And that's why it feels like we have to do it.
It's not essential. I think, it feels like it's essential, but obviously like reproduction, eating or, all of those things are genuinely necessary. It's not something that has to be done, but I think that there's something in humans, and not just humans, animals also, but particularly in humans, that they need... They feel like they just have to be heard in some way or another. Even if you are the most reclusive person, even if you're really hiding from the world, mm-hmm. there's still some tiny part potentially that means that you need to put something out there, and maybe that's in some kind of mark that you make. So I'm working with Canterbury Cathedral this year on an artist residency starting in October and finishing next October. And it's all about that lost artwork and ancient graffiti, essentially.
Yeah, nice.
Which is amazing, you know, really fully getting to research that and work with the archives there at the cathedral, work with professionals who this is what their life's work is about, and finding out why people make graffiti and why they used to, and how it's changed in its perception and how much less acceptable it's become.
Did they have the same sort of aim? So what are the reasons that people did it historically, and is it the same as why people do it now, and is it just our society of it's not accepted anymore, or is there something else?
I think you were seen by less people a while back. You know, again, partly social media, that sort of thing, means that everything you do is really seen. Where I was talking to a chap at the cathedral the other day, and he was saying that beyond sort of mid-1800s, just before that, essentially carving something into a piece of stone in the cathedral was not unacceptable. People were allowed to do that, really, you know, not encouraged, not in a kind of like definitely scratch your name or whatever into this piece of, but it was not seen as a bad thing.
And it's so much more permanent, isn't it, than doing a piece of kind of a piece of graffiti that can be covered up by something else. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's there. It's, you know, it's not going anywhere. It's literally carved in stone. So people were able to do that, and people were only in the cathedral during services. So people were carving essentially graffiti into the fabric of the building during a service. But no one was apparently batting an eyelid, you know. And it's really interesting, particularly with that project, it is seeing how graffiti works, and how, in some ways, it has stayed the same. And so there are parts of the cathedral where there is a lot of it, and there are generally a bit more hidden away bits. And it's that kind of, you see that somebody else has made a mark, so you can leave a mark there. And now you can't. You're not supposed to do that. Don't by any means carve on the cathedral. Don't go graffiti. But it's something about the fact that somebody else has done it means that you feel like you can then become part of that conversation, and then it spreads, right? So you end up with one tag or whatever out on the street, and then it spreads, and somebody else think that okay, and then it takes over. And that's not a bad thing from my perspective. You know, that's giving everybody the opportunity to speak. It's not about somebody being technically excellent or you know, making something beautiful and therefore they're better than somebody who just wants to make a mark. They should be almost equal in their kind of, you know, in just being recognised.
Okay, so that leads on to an interesting kind of topic, doesn't it? Of when, you know, you make a mark, if we're talking in a street art sense, you make a mark, you tag something, and then someone covers it up. And your work is gone. Versus, and in a similar kind of sense, okay, someone starts doing this online, or so, you know, the first people who started doing video, and you got loads of attention. Oh my god, a video! And now everyone's doing video, and it feels like you have to shout louder and louder and louder to get over the noise. But kind of how is that actually for you? If you've put something up, you've created a piece of work, you're really proud of it, and then someone comes along and just does something, their own work all over the top of it.
You have to get over that, essentially, and it's part of moving on in life all the time, is getting rid of what you've just done, what you've finished it, and therefore it's the past, and therefore in order for you to continue and keep making, what's just been done is kind of already irrelevant. It's yesterday's news straight away, so you can't give it as much love because it's already gone. How do you create, because actually it reminded me of I remember something I'm thinking about,
A-level art or something. This idea of, you know, when you spend so much time painting, like creating something, and then going, what would it be like? Like, would I still be able to create something that I gave my whole self to, and my whole ideas, and was really engrossed in, if I was to then come along and either punch a hole in it or like get a load of black paint and just cover it up? Could I give myself fully to it, knowing that it was going to be destroyed? Is there a bit of that? Do you kind of get less attached to things, and does that affect the work?
I'm definitely less attached to things, but I don't think it affects the work at all. I think it's self-preservation, essentially. You know, life has an end, in the same way that a piece of artwork has an end.
Yeah.
You still love things. You still attach to them in the period of time that they're in existence, and the process of life, in the same way the process of making a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
You love that process, and you love the end product. But when it's not there anymore, you can either give up and never make anything again, or you can carry on. And it's all about trying to carry on. It's all about trying to find a way of making yourself do something more for yourself, and for the viewer up to a point.
Do you find it's that idea and taking that mindset that you must have to be able to do that and not get too attached? Does that translate into kind of other areas that you can flow with and be a lot more present to what you're working on now, rather than, I guess, being attached to the future or attached to the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely means that it's always current, you know, and that, again, is part of that variety of needing to wake up and do something different each day. Is that I'm involved in whatever it is that I'm making at the time, and I don't really have a lot of thought processes for anything else that's happening outside of that. So I'm in this kind of flow state, which again, I'm sure that happens in various and all walks of life. You get into a state of mind which is all about exactly what's happening at that period of time. So my dad, who was an illustrator also, Greg Stobbs, amazing illustrator, he was keen on this idea that you had like he called it the demon, the thing that kind of gets into your head or gets into you while you're in this state of being, which is completely focused. So it's not about what's already been, or it's not about what's going to happen next. It's about what you're making at the time. And I think I'd like to think I would live like that.
So picking up on that idea of kind of how much do we evolve versus how much should we, I guess, once we've found something that works, and this is kind of, I guess, speaking to your creative side in terms of how much should we move through ideas for, actually I haven't really worded that, but we've kind of covered that, haven't we?
Yeah, up to a point. I mean, we
haven't said it explicitly what we were talking about before, but we have said.
No, we have covered it a little bit though. Just by accident, really, rather than.
Okay. How your mark evolves. It's probably good that we paused anyway, because I was thinking, how do we pull these all
together? What was the other bit?
So making your mark, does it have to be positive, and then how your mark evolves?
Yeah, I mean the positive part maybe we haven't necessarily covered that.
I'm just trying to think how to word it as a question.
Because I think that's really interesting in terms of people's social media presence and the way that they kind of sell themselves as a whole thing. Whether it has to be positive or.
Okay, actually, I know I can go into that. Okay. So we're talking about making your mark, but I think within that gives people a lot of freedom to say whatever they want to say, they have the right to say. But of course, sometimes that can come out positive and positive to other people, to the audience, or sometimes negative. And I guess in its nature, some people, graffiti is illegal, but at the same time, people love, a beautiful piece of work. Banksy is obviously, doing very well for himself. Where's the balance, do you think, in being able to make your mark, it being a human thing we need to do, be it, creatively or in our communication generally, of how much we should go, well, I don't have a right to be negative against other people versus having something to say.
Yeah. What I say now and what I actually do is probably going to be quite different. I think the way that things work now is that you are highly edited, and you're able to edit yourself in everything that you do all the time, and therefore you can say lots of terrible things behind a keyboard and then delete it before it is seen by the rest of the world, and you're not allowed that in real conversation. So I think also in artwork, you do a lot of stuff behind the scenes before the thing is seen by the world. So you're constantly editing yourself.
Yeah.
And I think maybe sometimes that means that you're never really allowing people in, or allowing the world to see what the real work is.
Yeah.
Or in terms of social media, exactly, the process, but also in not just visual arts, in anything, you're not seeing the reality. You're seeing something that's very, very polished.
Yeah.
Where you didn't used to necessarily see that. You're able to polish everything now to the point where anything that's kind of not gritty, that's a terrible, like anything that is unpleasant or wrong about the way that you say things or the way that you do things is kind of hidden away.
Yeah.
And I feel that's kind of sad. You need to be able to see both. You need to be able to offer people the sadness and the grief and the horror and all of those things in order for people to really understand what you are.
Yeah. But
not many people are doing that.
Yeah. Do you think that's where graffiti often kind of is that where its roots are? Is, you know, people who've got stuff to say that they maybe can't say in other media, but needs to be said. You know, work can be political or kind of against. It's anti-establishment in its primary.
It is for sure. This comes in so many guises now. There are so many possibilities. The difference between somebody who's just started out in doing street art as opposed to somebody from real graffiti is massive.
Yeah.
People are in it for completely different reasons, and I think again it all boils down to a need to make it and the need to do it.
Yeah.
More so than even being seen doing it.
To get it out of yourself, right?
Yeah,
whatever that thing is.
With street art, it's now more about consumerism and about making money and about turning it into a way of life. It seems like, whereas graffiti is a way of life, but it's not a way of necessarily living. It's not a way of making money.
Yeah.
They're just so completely different. In the way that they work.
Yeah.
And the way that they work in different places culturally is hugely different.
Yeah.
So the UK, there's not always as much respect there for old pieces as there is in other parts of the world. So in Italy recently, and talking to a graffiti artist, and they don't touch pieces of artwork, illegal pieces that have been there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 20 years, 30 years, then they're held up as history.
Wow.
Those marks have been given reverence, they've been given a place, and if you go over that, it's not good. That's massively disrespectful.
Really?
But here, that's not how things work. Everything is continually over the top of something, and there's still history in that. If you look deep under, in the thick paint.
Yeah.
But it's not treated the same way, and it's not kind of given that kind of respect, I don't think.
Yeah. Do you think there's something to learn in those ideas, in kind of, like we said, taking the graffiti street art idea and applying it to everyday life and our communication and expression? that we should be considering or learning or more considerate? I guess stuff online, like that's always the example, isn't it? That's most people's access because they don't have the skills or ability to go and tag or the inclination.
Yeah.
But they still have stuff to say.
But you're doing it online. I mean, a Facebook wall or a Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny, it's called a wall, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are tagging a wall. You're literally, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Digitally, essentially, you are saying something.
Yeah.
And it lasts and someone's going over it all the time.
Yeah.
It's happening constantly.
Yeah.
And a rate that is insanely rapid. Mm-hmm. What you've said happens at the same time as however many hundreds of millions of other people are saying something at the same time.
Yeah.
And the speed that it disappears is relative to how quickly other pieces of conversation disappear. If people are interested in what you're saying, then it exists for a little bit longer, but still eventually it disappears.
And I guess if it's long enough, then it becomes, like you said, was it Italy?
Yeah,
it becomes history because it's got enough attention. But if it doesn't get attention quick enough, then boom, it's gone. Like you said,
for sure. I mean, and we live in that life. We live in a transient existence right now where things are moving at a rate that you have to just continue to keep up with it. But you don't have to, actually. I say you have to. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be involved in it at all.
Yeah.
Just in some respects, it makes things work for you in some way.
Would you say then, I'm kind of drawing this parallel. I love this analogy of your Facebook wall being like a graffiti wall. And if you, like you said, if you're going to put work out in the public sphere, you've got to be prepared that someone else is going to come along and do the same thing,
and they're going to hate
over the top of
and also
yours.
There's every chance that they're going to say something that you don't like.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
We need to get used to that. I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own bubbles that you forget that people disagree with you and have different opinions.
Yeah.
And we, in some respects, we have to allow that.
Yeah.
Even though from your side of the world that could be horribly wrong, it's still relevant in some respects because somebody else feels as strongly in reverse of that as you do.
Yeah.
And I'm saying all of this, but I'm as guilty as anybody else on hating things that people say. Some of the things that people say online and in real world are just unnecessary and brutal and come up against everything that I believe in. But that's not to say they shouldn't be allowed to say it.
Yeah. I'm really getting this kind of take home for me anyway, and hope for listeners as well, of using particularly social media, but I know you can apply it to anything. Social media, of it's public and not getting, like you were saying about not getting attached to your work. If it's going out on a wall, for example, publicly, anyone else can come and say what they want, can come and do what they want to it, and that's fine, but not getting attached to it. And the same with social media. Maybe we get too attached to what's going out, whereas if we learn to just be present to the process, but don't get too hung up on the future or the past, because, like I said, it's gone, just like a tag or piece of work could be gone.
Absolutely. It is continually moving. And if you're not continually moving, then there's something wrong. We talked about it earlier on in terms of work, when people regurgitate and they get their thing, the one thing that's going to make it all work for them, and then they just do it over and over and over and over and over again. Yeah. Imagine if you were doing that, on social media or whatever, or like in something that you said, essentially writing the same sentence again but with a slightly different enunciation on the way that it's said or whatever. How much of a soul killer is that? Is that it's not allowing you to progress or move on? You're stuck in the past, essentially. Then I think you're not allowing yourself to move.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you say then would be your take home, with that in mind? Your take home for people listening of a way of approaching making your mark, but also being able to evolve that mark?
I mean, it works differently for everybody, right? I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their lives, But if from my perspective, you need to continue to challenge yourself and move on and do something else all of the time, just to see what the possibilities are.
Yeah.
Because there is a point where there aren't any possibilities left. Either that's the end of your existence, or where you just completely dry up and you've just got no ideas left. That's a possibility, right? So if you've got them, use them in that moment in time, carry on using them,
keep expressing.
For sure.
Okay, absolutely. Greg, it's been awesome chatting to you.
Good to chat to you too.
Thank you very much for bringing the topic of making your mark. If people want to see your marks, where can they find you online? All
over the place. So I'm split into SquirlArt, which is what I work under, doing more street art, graffiti type work, and Greg Stobbs illustration. So it's Instagram SquirlArt or Instagram Greg Stobbs illustration, and my website is www.squirlart.org.
I like that. It was
Make sure it's .org, just to clarify, not .com.
Okay. I like that you go through the www, so you've got time to go, what is the website again?
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Just slow things down.
It's always the question that throws everyone at the end. What's your social handles? And they go, oh wait, I don't know. The hardest question of the lot.
Just say a lot of W's and then you'll get it in the end.
Eventually it'll come out. So we'll put it in the description anyway.
Yeah, wicked.
So Greg, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.